It has been ages, but I am finally back and I am now a Nintendo creator. The Switch 2 Direct happened a few days ago, so I want to give my thoughts on that. It started off with Mario Kart World, which looks absolutely phenomenal. It's very cool, but we'll talk about that later. Then they showed us what the C button does, and it's Game Chat, which is Nintendo's version of Discord. It's finally off of the clunky Switch Online app, but it still isn't the best. Like, screen sharing is legitimately 3 FPS. Nintendo also brought back download play from the DS, which basically means that if your friend has a Switch and you have a Switch in a game they don't have, you can play it locally without them needing it. And we got some facts about the Switch, like the release date. It is on June 5th. That's actually in like 2 months. We have 4K support on the dock, 256 gigs of storage, which is a massive upgrade from the Switch's 32, a 1080p screen, and it supports full HDR. We also finally got confirmation that the Joy-Cons can be used as a mouse, and it runs at 120 frames per second. That is so smooth. We're also getting this gimmicky wheelchair basketball game, which lets you control with the Joy-Cons as in the mouse mode. It looks pretty cool. We got a tech demo, which should not be a paid game, as it's pretty much Nintendo's version of Astro's Playroom. But they spent about 2/3 of the Direct showcasing third-party games, which is cool and all, but it wasn't the best use of time. We got Hyrule Warriors. We got a new Hyrule Warriors game called Age of Imprisonment, which is set around the story of Tears of the Kingdom. They showcased the Switch 2 editions of games like Mario Party Jamboree, which has some extra game modes around their new camera, which you can also use with Game Chat. And they gave us Switch 2 editions of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which has this app in the Switch Online app, where it basically a GPS, so it tells you where Koroks are and where the shrines are. And with Tears of the Kingdom, it has this, you can use QR codes to like scan your schematics. So you can use QR codes to give you ones, or you can share them with other people, which is really cool. And also, these games finally can run at 4K 60 FPS or 1080p 120 FPS with full HDR. That is just incredible. We got a sequel to Kirby Air Ride for the GameCube, titled Kirby Air Riders, and the main game of the Direct was Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's Nintendo's 3D Donkey Kong game, which looks sick. Like, you can destroy anything on the map. But a 3D Mario game would have been nice, Nintendo. But still, this looks really fun. It's also coming around about a month after the Switch 2. They also gave us a Nintendo GameCube Nintendo Classics, so we can play GameCube games. They showed us games. We got Wind Waker. We got F-Zero GX, and more's coming like Mario Sunshine and Chibi Robo, which costs like $400. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And there's a new controller, a GameCube controller, which has the C button on it, which is cool, I guess. But who doesn't have a GameCube controller? Alright, now for Mario Kart World. This game is set in one big map, and it lets you drive from one track to the other, which is amazing. Judging by Nintendo's trailer, it seems that there's at least 37 to 48 characters, which is insane. You can even rail grind and wall jump off of the walls, so that's pretty cool. There's a knockout mode, which is basically Fall Guys, so if you don't get to the end for example, there is a knockout mode, which is basically Fall Guys, so if you don't get to the end for example, like 8th place, you're eliminated. And these knockout rallies let you drive from one corner of the map to the other. Yes, and the big announcement is free roam. This Mario Kart is completely open world, and judging by the looks of things, you can unlock costumes for your characters. Now the prices, this is where it kind of gets bad. So the Switch 2 costs 700 AUD and 450 USD, and with the Mario Kart World Bundle, it's 770 AUD and 500 USD, which is pretty fair, judging by the fact that it looks a lot more powerful than the Switch. But the real problem is the games. Mario Kart World costs $114 AUD and $80 USD, which cannot be justified, Nintendo. Switch games used to cost $80 AUD, and now they cost $114. That's crazy. At least Donkey Kong's 104 AUD and 70 USD. Pre-orders in the US have also been delayed, which is really annoying because of the tariffs. But in Australia, pre-orders started today. The pricing for Mario Kart is definitely going to leave a sour taste in your mouth, and you really got to be, you got to keep that in mind if you want to buy it. But overall, the Switch 2 is probably going to be a success, but I hope we don't get another Wii U situation. Hopefully I'm not jinxing it. I am going to get it, but I won't have as many games as the Switch because of those large prices. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!